Okay, as the title suggests, we shall be talking about JW Anderson's latest Cruise 2027 collection for Dior. Of course, it just came out, so this is a very quick review, kind of a very fresh overview on the collection from my point of view, of course. But before I go into it, let me know, guys, in the chat, what did you think about the collection? What were your overall thoughts? What was your quick synopsis on JW Anderson's first cruise collection at Dior? Let me sort this. So yeah, just to kind of frame the collection a bit. As far as I'm aware, there were three main references when it came to this Cruise Dior collection. So the first one was Marlene Dietrich. Of course, there was a movie reference, Hitchcock stage fright. So in the show notes, J.W. Anderson did mention that he referenced the bar jacket that she was wearing in stage fright. So that was reference number one. Reference number two was okay. Reference number two. I thought my mic disconnected there. I was confused. Reference number two is Ed Ruscha. So for people that don't know who Edward Ruscha Edward is very famous in the pop art era. There are a lot of text prints in the collection that were in collaboration with Edward Ruscha, so that was one collaboration. Then the third reference, I guess you can call it a reference if you want to, is what we've always seen from J.W. Anderson. Since Loewe days, it's the surrealism, it's, all those things coming from Loewe, the surrealist objects, a conceptual playfulness. And I think in general though, J.W. Anderson, more at his eponymous label than Loewe or Dior, he's very, very into film references. I know that at his namesake label, he talks about film a lot. He references film a lot. So I know that's something that he's very, very into. Another big talking point that everyone is talking about that we'll get into later is Philip Treacy, who did, of course, the headpieces for this Dior collection. Obviously, everyone's talking about it. There are different things written on the head, whether that's Dior, flow, and many other words that we shall be getting into as we talk about the collection. So let me just put the collection on the screen and we can walk through it. Al says, first collection at Dior that felt less commercially viable than the last. Yeah, which is strange, right? Because it's a resort collection, and normally with resort collections, the understanding is that it's going to be more commercial than a normal spring, summer, fall, winter collection, right? So it was a bit strange. I think, you know what it is? I will say that J.W. Anderson is definitely coming into his own when it comes to Dior, but the only problem maybe I'll just always have it with his Dior is the proportions. Something about the proportions are just consistently off. I don't know what exactly it is, but I just find his Dior proportions really, really off. There's something about how it's far away from the body, how it just doesn't look right. It feels like the kind of proportion that would work for Loewe, but it doesn't necessarily work for Dior. So yeah, straight out the gate, we get a lot of these floral references. This is a very Christian Dior thing to do. When you think about the previous collection that J.W. Anderson did at Dior, the set essentially looked like this form of a botanical garden, which is very on par with what we expect. Christian Dior himself grew up in Normandy in France, and he's very famously known for growing up in a flower garden that his mum used to take care of. So as he got older, flowers and gardening is something that he was very inspired by and something that he loved. So that's a big theme in all of his collections. And everyone has made those references, from Christian Dior to Yves Saint Laurent to John Galliano. Everyone who has been at Dior has made some sort of floral reference. So that's why we see florals all across the dresses. Some of them better than others, to be honest. I think some placements of the florals are good, and then on other pieces, maybe it's not as good. I did like what J.W. Anderson did with the accessories, for example, some of the bags had snails or, ladybug motifs. That's very in line with what we normally see from J.W. Anderson. At Loewe, he was doing things like heels with balloons or the tomato clutch that went really viral. I think something that J.W. Anderson is very good at is making these surrealist-inspired items and accessories that are viral and they sell really well. And that's obviously what he's there for. He's there to sell garments and accessories. So I think that's definitely a strong suit of what he does. To talk a bit about the setting, the set is at the LACMA in LA. Very interesting place. I found the teaser film, very interesting for this collection because it's obviously inspired by an Alfred Hitchcock film in being stage fright. And the funny thing about it is it's sort of this trope of a woman going to LA and kind of finding her dreams. LA has always been known, and even Hollywood as a trope has always been known as this place where if you want to get into the entertainment industry, you go there with no money and some way, somehow, hopefully you can make it work and become the next movie star. And I think you can draw parallels with J.W. Anderson in that whole story. J.W. Anderson is a designer that has risen to the heights of fashion from his eponymous label to Loewe, and then of course Dior, which is considered one of the biggest brands in all of luxury fashion. So that was also a very interesting concept, conceptually, how he wove in the movie references with the set, and then also into the clothing. And I think the set, because you're seeing vintage Cadillacs on the set, and he did in this collection, I remember I saw he brought back the Cadillac bags, the Dior Cadillac bags. So there are many John Galliano references across the collection. We saw the newspaper prints come back in. Very, very interesting. J-Dubs is actually super mid as a costume designer, and his buddy Luca's comments have kind of made him persona non grata in Hollywood. Yeah. It reminds me of the Homecoming mums. Cali skater distressing on tweed could have been an idea if it was actually explored further. That would be very interesting, and he's always doing the distressing on the denim anyway. I think J.W. Anderson, like now, you can see the pajamas on the screen. He's been doing this thing with menswear at Dior where he takes something that is very everyday and he tries to elevate it, whether that's denim, we've seen him do that with. We've seen him do that with ties. We've seen him do that with shirts and play with the collar. Now he's playing with PJs and pajamas, and maybe he's trying to turn that into something luxurious. I really want to know what fabric. I can imagine he's used some extremely luxurious fabric to make that, because that's sort of the concept. And so I don't know, it's very it's very interesting how he's trying to take mundane things and elevate them. Not LACMA, the new David Geffen building for that I was going to expand on that later. Also, I think it's very interesting actually that fashion nowadays has kind of been used as a tool for showcasing different architectural things or different aspects to things. For example, the David Geffen Galleries, I believe, took 20 years to complete. Sorry, I can't even speak. So it's insane that probably a lot of people didn't even know about it until this collection, and now people are learning about it and people are talking about it. So I do think it says a lot about how contemporary fashion can be used as a medium to showcase different things entirely, like a gallery space, and then people learn about it, and now they want to visit the gallery space outside of the show context. I do think that's very interesting. People have been saying it looks a lot like Chanel. I think some looks definitely, but not all of the looks. Some looks though, especially towards the end, which we'll get into. Yeah. Am I the only one that actually thinks the show was good? Some of the floral placements are questionable, but the clothes are good. Yeah, I did like quite a lot of the clothing. I also think that the craftsmanship behind some of the way. There was this dress that had florals encrusted all over it. That looked absolutely insane, to be fair. I do also like JW Anderson playing a bit with the silhouette of the bar jacket. In the past, we've seen, especially in the menswear collections, we've seen him do this super, super cropped silhouette. I'm not the biggest fan of that. Maybe in women's wear, but in menswear, it's not right. So I like that he's made it boxier and longer, but then it does make the silhouette look odd. Once again, I can't put a finger on it. I just think that his silhouettes at Dior sometimes can be really strange. I'm more surprised he chose Philip Treacy over Stephen Jones. I mean, they interchange. A lot of people have been talking about this coat because this coat essentially has a print that is supposed to look like a shadow, which is kind of cool, I guess. It's kind of cool. Setting feels ERD. I guess, because it's very brutalist and dark. I guess in a sense. I guess in a sense. Yeah, this is the part that looks more like Chanel, because there was a... I'm not sure if you guys know what I'm talking about, but there was a famous picture at the Chanel show of like 6 people wearing the same tweed coat, and it was in that same color, and it was in that same silhouette. That to me is what looks the most like Mathieu Blasi in the collection, but everything else I don't agree. I really like that bar jacket. There was another bar jacket that had fringes on the lapels. I thought that was really nice. I think it might be the next one, actually. Let me see if it's the next one. Yeah, this one I thought was really cool. That in a few different colorways could be a hit. That could definitely be a hit. This is funny. The setting being dark for a cruise collection feels odd to me. Yeah, I think it is a bit more strange when you consider that there's so many floral motifs, right? The vibe of the collection is very Dior, which is very gardeny, floral, outdoors, which is more in line with... This collection is more in line with the last set that was in the sort of botanical garden. So yeah, it is strange, but maybe it's interesting because I like the contrast. And I think the set is more to do with the film references than it is to do with the clothing itself, if that makes sense. Bro streaming while some of his urbans are at work. They can watch it back. They'll be fine. They will be fine. J.W. Anderson is that guy. The level of ideas he has for all of those connections, he's definitely the millennial Carl. Okay, I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go as far as comparing J.W. Anderson to Karl Lagerfeld, but I definitely think that J.W. Anderson is a great designer. I'm personally a fan of his. I think his output over the years has been super impressive. He has a strong body of work. Yeah, like... Where can I begin with J.W. Anderson? I've been covering his work for over 10 years, so I can say a lot about his work over the years. There's no knockout evening wear in this show. I'm trying to think of all of the looks. The encrusted floral dress was a winner. I think some of the footwear was good. I've talked about the bags. I like the way that he referenced the bags, a surrealist nature to them. I think these pieces, with all the crystals encrusted on them, I think that could be good for evening wear. You've got the Cadillac, the Dior Cadillac bags. Once again, they've got the saddlebag versions. The John Galliano references from Autumn Winter 2000 coming back with the newspaper print. A lot of people are disappointed at that because with the Dior teasers of the newspaper print, I think people thought that there would be a bit more pieces on the collection other than, just a bag and a few other pieces. Here is the collaboration pieces with Ed Ruscha with the text. Pretty cool, pretty cool. A little bit of pop art in the collection. I will say though, because something that is very fascinating to me about J.W. Anderson's Dior, and I'd like to know you guys' thoughts about this in the comments. So, J.W. Anderson, something I've always liked about his work, especially his namesake label, is how deep some of his art references have been over the years. They've been really, really interesting. And I wonder why at Dior they're so on the nose. Even at Loewe, some of his art references are really deep and really interesting. I really had to like go and do research to learn about the things because I'd never heard of some of the references before when I was analyzing some of his shows. But I think at Dior, it's very obvious pop art. It's very super ultra famous artist. I wonder if he feels like he needs to do that because Dior is such a big brand and the customer base is so broad that he feels like he doesn't have the space to reference things the way he would at his namesake label or even at when he was at Loewe, because maybe he thought the audience was more niche so they would study the references with him. That's just something very interesting that I've noticed with how he references things, even like the film reference, Alfred Hitchcock. These are very obvious, on the nose, everyone knows, everyone's talked about references. So I've always wondered if that's a thing coming from above about you have to reference things that are easy for people to understand. If I'm honest, I've noticed that there are certain ideas from his debut couture collection in the show. Yeah, even the silhouettes are very similar. They're very similar. Yes, Demi, you can participate. Let me send you a link. 1 second. Al says, Dior has to be obvious. It's anti-intellectual at its core. It's meant to be sensual. I guess. Then, when I think of John Galliano's Dior, for example, maybe intellectual is not the right word, but it was layered though, because of the way John Galliano tends to reference things. So he would reference maybe a certain culture or a certain time period, but within that time period, there'll be layers of references that you could say are very intellectual. Like the layers of some of John Galliano's references were not on the nose. I wouldn't describe them that way. What do I think of the styling? I think the styling is interesting on some looks. Like I said, I think the outerwear is really good across the collection. I do like the outerwear. I like the footwear and the accessories mainly. People, I guess, aren't fans of the headwear. That's interesting because online people are going crazy about the headwear. People are ranting and raving about the headwear on Instagram. Everyone's just making posts. Have you seen this crazy headwear? The problem I have with his deal is that it's not always consistent with his aesthetic. You mean his Dior? Okay, yeah, his Dior. So the problem I have with his Dior is that it's not always consistent with his aesthetic. Yeah. Although I do think silhouette-wise, there's definitely a very clear through line. Like, it's gotten to the point where if I see a J.W. Anderson Dior dress, I can tell that it's a J.W. Anderson Dior. Like, if I see someone wearing that on the street, I think he definitely has a certain J.W. Anderson Dior signature at this point that's quite recognizable. I like the soundtrack, by the way. Really nice soundtrack. Wait for the finale. Very foggy. One thing I will say about, sets like this is it's not very good if you're not there because there's too much. It's like the lighting is not too clear. You'll miss some elements. That is definitely an issue. But I understand for the theme of the collection, they need to do it. It's just, from my perspective, sometimes it makes things more difficult to actually see. Yeah, the bar jackets, the floral dresses, a lot of the headpieces that we can see. Ever since he took over Dior, he's been more focused on the brand rather than his own namesake label or his collaboration with Uniqlo, and he's supposed to do 18 collections a year. Yeah, it's very obvious. Yep. IO streaming from a room behind the Dior show. The humble gimmick is over. That's funny. I think the pajamas are a sort of sideways dig at Blasy's Margiela. Do you mean his Chanel or do you actually mean his Margiela? I'm concerned he'll overwork himself. Yeah. Yep, I've been over the show notes already. You can actually find some of the show notes on their page. I'll show you now since we've watched the show. So just to read out some of the show notes quickly, and then I'll add Dami to the stream. It says the Cruise 2027 collection explores the house's long-standing relationship with Hollywood. A jacket from Haute Couture Spring-Summer 1949, worn by Marlene Dietrich in Alfred Hitchcock's film Stage Fright, was one of the starting points. The Californian poppy was another reference. Florals are a recurring refrain. The collection is a dream of LA's creative personae. Buccal wool jackets with frayed cuffs, embroidered lace evening dresses, patchwork scarves, and shearling coats. The LA man is not overlooked. Sequined suiting glimmers. Pajama shirts are paired with leather trousers. A set of archetypal American shirts appears, made in collaboration with artist Ed Ruscha and incorporating elements from existing artworks. New bag silhouettes include a streamlined update of the saddle, a bucket shape with a Dior medallion, and a shoulder bag with a crescent base. Shoes are animated by flowers and sequins, which essentially is the same shoes from, like, some of them are similar to his debut collection, essentially. But Dami, how are you?
Hello. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, loud and clear.
All right, grand. Let me just adjust my microphone. I'm using a new mic, pardon me. But yeah, hope everything's going well with you and everybody in the
Yep.
chat. Shout out the Urbans, you know what I'm saying? Shout out the Urbans. But yeah, like I'm going over the show and I feel like one of the most interesting things is what he does in between shows.
Right.
And how he has actually got into a rhythm of explaining himself.
Yeah.
And at Loewe, he was more of a show, don't tell person.
Right.
And if you remember correctly, I forgot what season it was exactly, but a few years ago he did the biomorphic dresses, the ones that had
Oh
grass
yeah.
on them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That was low ever. Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember.
and that one, he didn't necessarily explain it outright. He didn't go to Tim Blanks and do a whole interview on why he was doing that.
Yeah.
But it was overtly expressed through the images and the construction and how things were made. And I see that as a distinctive difference, especially based on possibly how confident he is, and two, how like how Dior or like the overall company are seeing his reception to Dior,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Right.
And that's the first question I wanted to ask. I wanted to know what your thoughts were on that.
So the thing is, I think because you're playing at such a higher level,
Yeah.
and I think Delphine Arnault, it
Mm.
seems, works really closely with him because Delphine is always by his side. Like, it seems like every time I see Delphine, I see JW Anderson there. And I think she is steering the ship a lot in terms of this is not Loewe. You have to speak more. You have to tell your narrative. You have to explain this so it can sell. You have to create more bags. You have to put a focus on the accessories. I do think actually a lot of it is coming from her, and maybe some of it is coming from J.W. Anderson kind of being under the microscope a lot more, and maybe feeling like he needs to explain his ideas a lot more because just more eyeballs, more scrutiny, more praise, more everything.
Mm. Yeah, so I guess yeah, we've kind of read the thing the same, where it's almost as if she's behind the camera in a way. Not to say it like
Yeah,
that, but
because did you,
that's
did you see the video where was it? I think it was the last show. So the last show, that show with the botanical garden and all that sort of
mm,
stuff, really good show. Um, Backstage after the show, I think it was Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos that, or was it just Lauren Sanchez? It was one of them anyway, or both of them. They went to see him backstage, and it looked visibly that he wasn't too keen on talking to them. And then Delphine Arnault appeared out of nowhere and introduced them. So that's what I mean. It's like I think she's steering him a certain direction, and she's preparing him to like really take Dior by storm.
yeah, she is like a very dominant figure, and she has been one of the best executives at LVMH.
Oh
So
yeah, she's amazing. She's
yeah, so
amazing.
rightly so in some aspects, but then the question is how used to that is he, right? Especially I think everyone's had a job where like you've got someone that feels like you're being micromanaged, and you're
Mm,
like, I can do the job properly, because we haven't seen him like this. And you know me, one of the major things I've said about LVMH is um they're able to make their designers, their key designers, celebrities, and actually give the people like a better understanding of who they are as creative directors. And that's not something that Karen does, and
right.
that changes the dynamic of the relationship between the people and the creative director. Because I'm pretty sure, like, I speak to a bunch more regular people nowadays, and regular people as in not in the fashion sphere as much, and they didn't even know that Demna moved to Gucci, for instance.
Seriously.
And yeah, so it's not like that widely known, that widely cared for, even though there's people that like fashion. That if I'm speaking, the conversation isn't going to be as in depth, because the quality of their knowledge isn't necessarily there, and they think it's
Mm,
just about clothes, but not necessarily about the executives and the creative directors, who obviously like the back office and the ateliers and everything like that. But you know, the creative director has the vision, the executive has the implementation, which is essentially how it's supposed to be. More to the collection though, I see that and I think somebody said it in the chat as well, where the there's a bunch of themes that are now running through from the couture collection down
yeah.
into the mainline collections or the ready to wear collections, which is generally how it's supposed to go. However, my personal thoughts, and I want to ask you this question as well, is do you think the implementation is at the level of what we would consider JW Anderson to be at, and is any of
I
it watered down based
I
on
don't
how?
know because it's difficult to say because I think what I loved about J.W. Anderson's work is the playfulness
Mm,
and how fun it was. But I think the issue with doing that at Dior is Dior's clothing was always crafted a certain way. Um, so when you're a creative director at Dior, it's not just okay for it to be playful. There has to be a level of like tailoring level that goes behind it. You know what I mean? If you think of the people that have designed there in the past, whether Yves Saint Laurent, who was like the first prodigy, to Marc Bohan, Gianfranco Ferrer, John Galliano, even people like Ras Simmons, there's a certain cleanness to the way the silhouettes look that I associate with Dior and I have historically. And I don't get that with John Galliano's, sorry, not John Galliano, with J.W. Anderson's collections yet. I don't get those clean, high tailored silhouettes yet. I don't get that feeling when I look at his collections. But some of the playfulness is still there. I would say the references are very, very, very on the nose, but that's just because it's Dior. And like you were saying, like you said, people are not realizing that Demna's gone to Gucci. So when we're in that sort of realm and Dior is as, famous as it is, you just have to give them the Alfred Hitchcocks. You have to give them the pop art references, the Basquiat references, the more obvious things. I do like the through line stuff that he's doing. Like we see the heels with the florals, the floral applications. We get that all the time. We know that his bar jacket is going to look a certain way. They have a certain silhouette. He's experimenting a lot with different bags and how he brings the bags back. He's adding his surrealist sensibilities from Loewe, whether it's, a snail or a ladybug in this case, because when you talk about Dior, you talk about flowers, you talk about gardening, you talk about gardens, nature. That's a very Dior thing to do. So there are interesting elements. I will also flag that everyone needs to remember this is a cruise collection. And if you read the description that I wrote on YouTube, in my description, if you literally read it, at the end of the description, I wrote that he's probably saving a lot, or something along the lines of he's saving a lot of his ideas for couture, probably. So we just have to wait and see.
Yeah. So that was another point, and that's obviously a really, really great point to point out, the fact that this is a cruise collection and it's not the main ready-to-wear collection. It's not supposed to be as extravagant or as valuable or even memeable to some extent, but at the same time it's Dior, so you have to have that high level of a show and all of these other things. You got to spend the money because they have an image to uphold. That being said, though, this is a collection for people who have the money to spend on all of the collections in between the main shows. So I'm thinking about those people as well, and their confidence in JW Anderson and what they care about. So when I think about the Loewe bags that had people interested, and I think that's kind of like what's tripping him up here. It's that with Loewe, nobody had anything to go on or go off, but here people know like the lore of Dior, like you said, like there's a whole lineage in it. So he's wrestling with that, and at the same time trying to find himself, but he still has collections to put out. These are amazing.
Because you know what it is? This is why I said it's hard for me to put my finger on it. Someone like Yves Saint Laurent is such a good designer that, like, the way he makes... I feel like I need to go downstairs and get my book to show people some references. The way he makes dresses, they have a certain look to them that's so refined, no matter what he designs, that I'm just not getting from J.W. Anderson.
Yeah. And in a way, and J.W. Anderson is literally one of my favorite designers of our generation.
Same.
Like and I sometimes like have to remind myself that he gave us 10 years of dominance with Loewe. Like it was almost out the gate that his work was revered. And he was that designer, right? And he still is to a certain extent, but it depends on the company that he's working for, because he was one of the best money makers with Loewe, and the ideas that he was bringing to the table was also very valuable. Because if you were traveling around during this time, like the past 6 years, for me, Loewe was everywhere.
Yeah, past 6 years, yeah.
Pardon?
Yeah, the past 6 years, definitely. Everyone was wearing the puzzle bag. Do you know those Loewe sunglasses that everyone was wearing?
Bro.
You know the ones I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find the bold ones.
Yeah, and people have been copying those as well. Like the puzzle, there's a lot of people
like
that
these sunglasses. Everyone had those at one point.
In a way, he brought back chunky glasses, in my opinion. Like a lot of people, as someone who literally has wore glasses since he was like 7 years old, like there was a time where chunky frames were not in, and they were big, bold, and all of these other things, and then they're back in again, and then they were out of style, then in style. But the point is that he was at the forefront of design trends,
Yeah.
and then now he seems like he's trying to catch up with ghosts almost. And that, and like you said, like, because I totally understand what you mean with YSL or Eves, and how he would have this sleek line, like it would be, it almost reminds me of like a tornado line on a car, where it's just like smooth and sleek and so refined that it's almost like one cut, he measured it 100 times and then he cut it once, sort of thing. But
Yeah.
here it's almost like he's creating a casual sensibility on a higher level, and it feels like it's almost maybe a mismatch. Like the whimsy is in how casual these pieces are. I wonder what you think about that.
Yeah, it's just because the playfulness, it's I think what it is, because I always think about it. There's a way that his silhouettes sit away from the body that just doesn't seem very Dior to me. It's very, and I'm going to put let's see, images of the Yves Saint Laurent iconic trapeze collection that he did for Dior on the screen, just so like, just to illustrate what I'm saying. Like when you look at the way that the dresses are designed, even though Dior, like as a house now, is known for volume, right? Dior is known for like the crinoline and like all that sort of stuff, corsetry. But there's still a way that, and obviously this collection in like specifically was unstructured actually, so it's like quite away from typical Dior things. But there's just a way that like the garments sit on the body or sit close to the body that I just don't get from JW. It's just, I'm just waiting for him to perfect that silhouette personally.
Yeah, and because like this is also like recession energy, like we're talking about hyper capitalism, you know, all of the political nomenclatures, and it shows itself in the collections in ways that you don't necessarily expect it to be. Like when,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Karl Lagerfeld was doing massively extravagant shows during like politically tumultuous times, you wasn't really thinking the same thing. Like those, like the rocket ship show was revered in a way, but then in with his shows, when it comes to, you know, the high art and his implementation of it, it's almost as if people are giving him the side eye,
Mm.
when, you know, this is for all intents and purposes a working class guy working at the highest level possible.
Yeah.
And Karl Lagerfeld in some ways was talking to peers, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, because I think that there's honestly nothing wrong with all these soft designs. Because like I said, most of Christian Dior's work is structured. It's all about structure and, you know, shape. Obviously, Yves Saint Laurent went the opposite way with that trapeze collection that I showed. But even within, because that remember at the time that was considered soft and unstructured for Dior, and it still looks structured. You see what I mean? So everything just being loose and flowy is not. It's not. It doesn't feel like Dior at all, to be honest.
Hmm. Yeah, so like no, I understand what you're saying, and it's all like because the playfulness in Chanel, and I have to actually compare him to Matthew Blaze, because those two guys are like one and two for me. I can't lie,
Mm.
but his playfulness comes with the trompe l'oeil, the illusion effects, and all of these other things, right?
You talking about
And make
Mathieu now?
pardon?
Are you talking about Mathieu
Yes,
Blazy?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay, yeah.
and that is hitting.
Makes sense.
Uh, for some reason where JW Anderson is trying to implement it into Dior, and he doesn't use that effect. He does other things, like you said, like more
Dior's all about the waistline. To talk about this, that's
waistline.
the crazy thing, because Dior is all about
Yeah,
the waistline.
yeah. Well, yeah, it's about the taper. So you're talking about the taper of like the
Yeah,
cut and
cinched
all that.
in
Yeah,
waist
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Hello,
And
Al.
Hey,
howdy.
what's up?
Yeah.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Howdy, howdy.
Howdy in Texas.
Yes, Texas.
Are you
Yeah.
in
But yeah,
Texas right now or are you somewhere else?
No, I'm currently in Vietnam. I just came back from a pottery workshop. It's
Ooh, that's fire.
nice,
Following
nice.
yeah.
following in the footsteps of Nigo, were you doing pottery before him?
Um. So actually, funnily enough, the reason why I moved to pottery is because of J Dubs. J Dubs started a
Okay.
thing, the Loewe Foundation,
Yes, yeah, I remember the ceramics one.
and this it's not just ceramics. I think it's just generally all craft. I think is how they want to portray it because they
When you
also have
say all,
basket
yeah, like the
art.
textiles and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, really anything that could be considered part of the craft world, and they really elevated with their like campaign and
Hmm.
visibility into like what was going on in contemporary craft, like all the cool stuff that's out there. So I have him directly to thank for like me being interested in pottery and ceramics. And they recently, yesterday, announced the winner of this year's LVMH prize. This Korean guy who did a ceramic piece with I think paper towels.
Right.
But like you can totally tell that J.W. Anderson is not in charge of the jury anymore because the taste there swings wildly different because the finalists are just not necessarily. There's definitely a change in the voice of like who's being selected at that prize.
Right.
But yeah. Anyway, back to the collection. I know we were talking a lot about like the way that the JWA aesthetic is to let things just hang off of the I don't know
Body, yeah.
body.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the laissez-faire type of aesthetic.
Yeah, I think it's best summed up in like that. I forget if it was JWA or Loewe he did, but there's this one where it's just like a dress, but like it like forms into the mold of like a car, and it's just like hanging there. That's the one
Yeah,
I
the
think.
illusion, yeah. Well, it
Yeah,
wasn't an illusion, it was constructed, but yeah.
right. But like that's what I consider to be like the core of like his way of like dealing with things is just to like hang them like plot like a potted plant on off the person. Um,
Right.
you know, and that extends if we go back to the image you were just on to the jewelry in the collection. Jewelry is a major growth category for LVMH because people are investing in it as like a sort of thing that's wearable, but also like kind of high value, and it's um, like I think that what he's doing mostly for this collection is like hanging like fabrics of metal that are draped from the ear. There's quite a few of them in the images.
Yeah.
I think like that's like maybe the most signature piece that's kind of associated with it. And I was wondering you guys' take on that. And I think it doesn't look that great. It's not that strong, I think, of a design, but it is a forced motif. It's on multiple
Yeah, quite
looks.
a few looks.
Yeah.
Like even the next look, same thing.
Hmm. And that part I think is part of his heritage, obviously, with his obsession of craft and bringing in like the sort of like influences from the uh, you know contemporary craft world that gets carried over. Uh, these sort of like textile pieces, right? Even in the jewelry. Um, but I don't think it like coheres with the rest of the collection. There's not that much in terms of like an emphasis on drapery, even as like everything's kind of loose and hanging. And I said so in the chat, but I think the really core weakness here is like the lack of good evening wear, which YSL obviously brought
Yeah.
and even with like the crazy drama and fantasy of Galliano, like where that wasn't the point of it being wearable. It just wasn't the point. The like ready to wear was always, I think, it felt like on the edge and
But the thing about
ability to
Galliano is that
synthesize these influences in such a way that it felt futuristic.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the thing about Galliano though is that even though most people couldn't wear the clothes, something we don't give him enough credit for is how good his accessories were. Like
Oh,
so many designers have been rehashing, like he made the Dior saddlebag, for example. Like so many designers have rehashed that. So he doesn't get credit for producing products that sold because obviously when we think of Galliano, we think of theater and all the theatrical things that he was doing at Dior and the crazy sets, but there was a lot more substance within that and a lot more commerciality than I think people realize. Dammy, you've gone a bit quiet.
Oh, yeah, no, I have to be close to the mic. Pardon me. Can you still hear me now?
Yeah, you're
I
still a
think
bit
your input
quiet.
is maybe incorrect. If you're talking to a mic, it might be like your laptop microphone that you're on.
But yeah, with am I still quiet now?
Yes.
There we go. How about now?
Still the volume still could be higher. Luke says the boutique collections were highly wearable, agreed, and he always adjusted or devolved his couture for the client. Yeah, but I mean that's what most designers do, right? So even if the couture is crazy, a client can come and be like, okay, remove the fringes, remove that, and then it just becomes a more plain dress that people can wear day to day. That happens a lot with couture. Dior is where it is because the saddlebag and J'adore and those came out under his leadership. 100%. Like I said, I think people don't give Galliano the credit because we think of him as this like genius designer that made all these crazy things. I think people don't give him the credit for the commercial things that he created. I think with this collection, Al, to your point, I do think the earring thing can work, but not. The problem with this collection is it's not used to anchor a wider theme. I think if it was used as an anchor to talk about craft through the collection in a very interesting way, I think that would make it more of a talking point and that would make it a thing. Because when you make that a thing, like if everyone starts wearing, like all the it girls in fashion start wearing that Dior fabric earring in one ear and then it becomes a thing, everyone's going to buy it. And then before you know it, that's how an item becomes really well sold, especially something like that won't be too expensive compared to all the other Dior items that you can buy. But it's the anchor that isn't there. It's not really anchored around anything else that's remotely interesting.
Yes, I discussed this a little bit in chat. I think there's a real styling problem here. Like the craft of the objects and the garments themselves is really great. Obviously, their atelier is one of the best in the business. But it's just like I think being thrown off course. Not just by I think the fact that a lot of storylines aren't really cohering. I think, but also it kind of feels like there's these massive departments in this huge company, and they're kind of talking past each other. It's not quite synergizing, right?
Mm.
Because the styling being not quite there.
Yeah, like even a look like this does look all over the place. I don't know if that's like a separate neck piece with the floral on the side here that's part of the dress, and then the shoes that kind of have a floral motif and that kind of part translucent. It is a bit strange. Some of the way things are styled. I guess this is what people are talking about with Chanel because Chanel has these shoes with the toe box with a different color, right? So it's kind of very in line with that. I mean, brands are nowadays they see something work and then they just make their own version. That's kind of the formula these days.
Brother man, I was distraught that there were no Vans in this collection. The Dior oblique Vans are a staple of the house, and it could have been a chance to discuss the
We
location.
saw some Dior roadies though. Yeah, these ones, these bedazzled ones. A houndstooth bedazzled roadie.
I like the roadies. I think they're a cool
Yeah,
silhouette. I like
I like them.
the,
I like them
the
too.
two half construction. They're fun. But it kind of like comparing this to like even the ERL show, which was the last Cali centric show. Like even
Yep.
that, I think is a much more successful and coherent vision than this.
My question for you is, who is J.W. Anderson's Dior woman? What would you describe them as? What do they like? What's their aesthetic? What do they wear? Because I have a very difficult time pinpointing that.
From
And I
what
think
I
that's
understand,
part of the issue.
the shoes are popping, and people like the new bags. The
Yeah.
Seagal, just they couldn't keep it in stock, right?
Yeah.
Probably that's just it being very limited because they want to keep some sort of aura mystique about it. But now it's starting to be in stock, and people are buying them. It's not like everything from like the first couple of shows, like I was saying, women's side at least, I think is quite saleable, and it was obviously we discussed it as kind of low hanging fruit and maybe
Yeah.
so on and so forth. But it middle of the road works. It was very saleable. People liked it, right? It's only I think with the last show with the spring summer were like just the Loewe-isms, like not even J.W. Anderson-isms because I think like they're different ateliers, but the Loewe-isms. So I think a lot of the people were brought over into Dior from Loewe. The Loewe-isms were just so much heavier, and I think
Yeah.
that's just Dior.
Vogue Runway don't want me to open the next show. They gave me a 502 bad gateway.
Women's wear daily. Women's wear daily. Only.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go Women's Wear Daily with that one, guys.
No,
We're
oh,
ex
yeah,
Tumblr girlies that somehow got to some capital. Okay, the quirky vanilla girly, interesting. I know Dietrich is supposed to be one of the main references. This is literally one of the main references in the collection. Oh. Yeah, I had to mute that quickly, Dammy. Your mic went crazy static. The middle of the bridge from comfortable to adventurous. Let's see. Also, look at the amount of repetition in all his collections. His collections are mostly repeats. I definitely can't disagree with that. I don't think it's an issue on the accessory side, though, because you kind of have to push accessories a lot to sell. But with the dresses and the silhouettes and stuff, definitely. I can agree with that one.
Does Vogue have a details section?
Not yet. I think it's coming. This kind of show, it's definitely coming, but not yet. I think we're too early. They don't even have their article up yet.
The new tulip heels that we I think zoomed in on at what point. Like I know that's new, but I don't know what else is new.
Yeah. I mean, some of the bags are new, like obviously bringing back the John Galliano collection, Autumn Winter 2000. Obviously, they brought back the Cadillac bags, which was very fitting because of the set and having the old Cadillacs as part of the set. That makes a lot of sense. So yeah, there was a few things. What do you think about the headpieces that everyone is ranting and raving about online?
I think it's just another like sign that J Dubs is a secret weeb, and he's been watching the new live action One Piece. People in the chat get that reference.
The first three looks being the exact same but in different colors is killing me. Yeah, Dammy, I've had to mute your mic again. It's the static. But yeah, this is something I've said about. This is something I said even from his debut women's wear, because I know his actual debut collection was a menswear collection, but I mean his first women's wear collection. That collection really could have been edited a lot better. That's something that he definitely, like this thing going on, like the same look in three different colorways. It's not, because the thing about collections, I feel like the less looks, the better, because then visually we can remember more things. If there's too much to remember because you've done the same look 3 or 4 times, it doesn't actually, like, if you want clients to know that they can have it in different colorways, I think people have already understood that as a thing. If you're a rich enough client, you can get anything made in any colorway. That's kind of known behind the scenes. So it's not really necessary to showcase things.
Something if like you really want it to be a hit, right? Like this is the new silhouette. It's signature Dior.
But is that silhouette going to be a hit? That? though?
Do you know
Of
what I'm
all
talking about?
things
When
to
I say
focus
homecoming
on.
mums, though, like I mentioned,
Yeah,
like
I
I
know
like
what
a
you mean. I
collection
know what
of
you mean.
those.
I know what you mean.
I don't know if it's just like a southern thing or if anything.
I
People
watch a lot of TV.
people have context for that. That still reminds me, like the sort of Americana that
Yeah.
because I don't think like that's a traditional way of putting flowers on dresses. Not in this like sort of like with the big tails as if they were like ribbons. I think that's influence from moms.
Yeah. Yeah, Paul Poiret. Sorry, I was gonna say Paul Poiret is very like drop waist. Which, to be honest, we know that J.W. Anderson is very inspired by Paul Poiret. He's literally referenced him in like two past Dior collections at this point already. So we know that that's a big reference. In the menswear collection, he referenced Paul Poiret. So having some more Poiret references here, I just don't know that women, and I'm not a woman, so I want the women to tell me, what do you guys wear? What are women wearing right now? Would you wear drop waist? There's a few women in the chat. We want to hear from you. I'm just curious to know what the temperature is in terms of women's wear.
I think the value proposition in those first three looks is mostly in the like movement and the amount of fabric they have at the
Right.
um I think that's like I don't know how much longer that trick is gonna work where like the swing away from quiet luxury where the answer seems to be just more and more and more fabric with like the tassels at the end of things and the
Yeah.
accent of exaggerated movement. I think we're on the tail end of that trend now.
I do think some of this stuff, right? So like this dress here, I actually really like it. But then the bow here, it just makes it look odd. So there's a lot of things where I'm like, oh, that's like actually really interesting. And then it's just new. Oh, okay. Sarah Moa just came out with the article finally. Does that mean we get detail shots? Okay, not yet. Not
We
yet.
have
Not yet.
beauty if we scroll down a little, I think. I don't know what that
That's
is in terms of a section. Oh, it's just the same thing but frumpier.
yeah. I mean, it's just close ups, I guess, of some of the looks that we saw.
I wouldn't describe these particularly close. I guess the footwear is a bit easier to see in lighting.
Yeah.
Are those cowboy boots for the men?
They weren't really boots. They're kind of shaped like cowboy, but the heel is very low. They're not as high as typical cowboy boots, basically. Some of the bar jackets that we can see. So, do you know something that has been selling really well for Dior, actually? You remember the loafers from the first collection in the D shape with the hole? Those have been selling really well. So I've heard.
Some people enjoy the logomania of Dior. I think it's like a huge knock on the brand because there's so many like strong house codes and so on and so forth with the canage and the oblique and everything that like just
Yeah.
Dior or CD in giant, letters on things. It just feels the next level of cheap.
And as you can reference the reference, right? Because even Christian Dior himself, he was really enamored by the Rococo fashion. So you can take elements of that, but not completely like overdo the crinoline and the volume and stuff. But like there's just elements you can take from it, like even tiny elements. Like, oh, in that period, men used to wear their collars a certain way, so I tried to modernize it to make the modern shirt from that. There's just so many more interesting ways you can do it, right? Um, I'm trying to see if there's any of the accessories I'm missing. Okay, little clutch.
He's got to stop with the capes, man. They're not working.
He's been doing that since the first collection. Quite literally, the first menswear collection had all the capes. Quite literally.
Honestly, he could have dropped all the menswear looks from this show. I would have been perfectly fine with that. I don't think it added much.
Yeah. Trying to see. Yeah, this is the Botanical Garden collection.
This show was extremely popular with both his
very.
and like had a lot of great offerings for like Dior. To me, like the low was overpowered everything, but you couldn't say that this wasn't a great collection. And I don't know what the heck he's doing with this cruise show.
I'm just trying to pick out, because it's like, okay, if you're a stylist, what would you put on your client? It's like, okay, some of the bar jackets,
the ripped jeans. Honestly,
yeah, the ripped jeans,
they're
the footwear, this dress maybe. This dress, I need to see the back of it to see. I want to know this sort of floral motif bleeding out of the dress. I want to know how extreme it is on the back.
Honestly, from that thumbnail, it looks like, you know, that evening wear dress is just growing mold or like fungus.
Right.
It's a little mold trend. You know, mold. That'll be in for 2027. Let's do that.
What do you think about, I mentioned this earlier, about him always trying to take all these mundane elements like a shirt and a tie and a pajamas and try to elevate it and pair it with leather trousers and turn it into something that you can wear day to day? Do you like that as a concept?
Yes, I think it's pretty interesting for Dior. I mean, like, with like the sort of contribution of Hetty from the menswear side of things, like that's sort of like, not casual elegance, but this sort of like devil may care attitude towards like the sort of rocker cool.
Right.
I think that's like an extension of that into the idea of like I'm on tour, I'm stepping out in my hotel pajamas, and I don't give a shit, right? And that perilous attitude, I think, might be part of his vision for men's. It just I don't know. It's not that compelling and visually if you like, you know, compare it to the women's wear stuff.
I guess it might work because when you think of J.W. Anderson himself, he's quite famous, like every time you see him, for dressing in a really slouchy way. So it's almost like he's designing his own perfect uniform, because those menswear looks with the roadie and the jeans and the shirt, that is literally how J.W. Anderson dresses. Like he'll wear like Levi's and like Converses with the shirt. So it's almost like he's trying to present this idea of, you know, I just leave my house in my PJs, because that is actually the kind of thing that he would do.
He's under a lot of stress. But no, actually, I'm against this. I'm against this sort of bleed over of like the designer's personal style into their collection. During the last cruise for Chanel, Matthew Blazy's like obsession with quarter zip somehow made it into the collection. I'm not with
Right.
that. I can just leave that at home where, you know, all the sweatpants are.
Or they could just not put it on the runway, but it's sort of the permanent collection stuff you see when you go into the store that never makes it to the runway.
I mean, I guess I get what they're saying. There is a degree of like self-portraiture and reflection of like your own sensibilities that you want to have in the collection. But I think that's weaker than just like attempting to directly, you know, say the words. Just do your job.
Yeah.
Right? Because like the idiosyncrasies should come through like your interpretations of what the house should be doing and what your customer is. It shouldn't just come from you. Like, who is you? You're just a guy.
But I guess it depends on who the designer is, because I guess J.W. Anderson, like, I'm a fan of him for his designs, not necessarily his personal style, but I think if we're talking about a designer like Eddie Slimon, it's kind of interwoven into one. So depending on some designers, their own aesthetic is basically the design language.
Yeah, I'm not a heady fan myself, but the idea I think of why I like, say, J Dubs is I like his way of thinking. I like his methodology of approaching, a collection and thinking about his customer and thinking about craft and thinking about all these things. I mean, that's what I'm there for. Like the personal style stuff is really secondary. And it's sort of like a nod and a wink, I think, to people who like care about that sort of thing. And I don't think it adds much.
Right.
I mean, this is a like I sort of infantilize.
Yeah, this
the heady,
preppy
like, devil may care thing.
yeah.
It's about like I'm a Chinese exchange student. It doesn't matter that I'm spending $80,000 a semester here. I got the funds.
I've got the funds. I can buy a track jacket from Dior for 6K and a pair of cotton shorts for 1K and like flip flops for however much.
Yeah. I mean, this Dior customer spends his daddy's money. It's not his own money. Sorry, the trust fund is in his name. Legally, it's his money because the trust fund is in his name. But
Oh yeah, he stopped using that because he used that for like was it 2 or 3 seasons in a row, and then with this collection we didn't see any of that trapezium collection.
The delts,
yeah, delts like delft dress, shorts and skirts and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, if his menswear stuff like was more architectural and less like lifestyle focused, maybe I'd be more into it. But it just looks like a bad diffusion line at this point. Like it looks like it's designed by a totally different guy.
I think for me, like I said, it's like I feel like I'm beating a dead horse at this point. It's just I'm a fan of his work, and I probably always will be. But I think the volume and the silhouettes just don't do it for me at Dior. They just don't. Especially on the women's wear side. But obviously that depends on the collection, because I think in the last collection, that wasn't too much of an issue. Because he had these really nice coats with like these really amazing, perfect silhouettes. But then with this collection, he's gone back to that frumpy, oversized Loewe sort of silhouette that I'm just like, I don't like it at Dior.
Yeah, I think the first show, the debut collection, Ready to Wear, had I think a great balance. That's like keep it. The Wi-Fi router hats were working.
I'm trying to see. Let me go through some of his past collections. See what I'm talking about, because this was the first one. So this here, these silhouettes are fine. Like these silhouettes here are completely fine.
Yeah, there's the second and third looks. That's kind of the shit that he was doing, like at his namesake label when it was still in London.
Yeah.
Like, it's very J.W. Anderson coded, but it still works at Dior.
So these silhouettes here are not like the frumpy, oversized thing that I'm talking about. Like this is not. So these silhouettes, well, maybe not that on the right hand side, but most of them were completely like fine. Like these are actually really, really nice silhouettes. And then there was a collection specifically where he started like losing me slightly. It might have been, it was this one. It was the pre-fall collection where he really started to lose me with the silhouettes, where everything was just comically oversized. And it's just like, it's not.
Oh my God, I think I blocked this one from my memory. I legitimately forgot this one existed.
Where everything, like stuff like this is just like, definitely not. So that's what I mean. It's kind of like hit or miss with these collections and how the silhouettes are, to be very honest. And then we get the couture collection, which, once again, to me, the silhouette on those pieces is definitely not for me. But then moving forward, he's gone into silhouettes that I think make sense, definitely. And they're definitely flattering on the body. Because it's not, ultimately, Dior is not comme des garçons. So, like, things have to be flattering on the body. If something is so oversized that the garments are swallowing the wearer and it just looks really unflattering, I don't think that's, like, really good. Yeah, these were nice. The last collection in Paris, majority of these were nice. And then in the latest collection, once again, he's gone back to the whole oversized frumpy thing. So if we're going based on, what has happened so far, that means in the next collection we're going to get the good silhouettes.
I mean, there's a lot of people who work at the house. I think it's just straight up. There's a lot of departments, and you got to have a strong hand to like make it all go in the same direction. So.
Yeah. My friend said she believes Anderson's Dior is an attack at anyone trying to dress sexy. The thing is, obviously, dressing or looking sexy can come in so many different forms, but I think if something is completely unflattering, then it's just something totally different.
I mean, the new Loewe is a lot more sexy than this.
Yeah, agreed.
And like with the way that they've turned that into a much more sporty offering, I think like it's a real clear idea. This, again, we need a straight ship. We don't need any more of this.
I want to see if there's any interesting quotes from this Dior, from this Vogue article. It's this idea of dressing up. There will be characters that I have done as if we have made costumes. Fashion's long love affair with Hollywood. Yeah, that's a big mistake. Do you know why that's a big mistake, actually? Because so for example, a big reason why he wanted to reference the Alfred Hitchcock film with Marlene Dietrich is because that was actually Christian Dior's first touch point with Hollywood. And the context of that time period is actually very interesting. People who are on the Patreon, you guys would have heard me talk about this time of fashion history, but there was a point in time when all those couturiers didn't like Hollywood and they thought Hollywood was beneath them because they thought anything American was kind of in bad taste. And anything, especially Hollywood, was so pastiche that why would we dress Hollywood stars? And then over time, because of designers like Givenchy, having collaborating with certain celebrities and that becoming huge, over time a lot of the couturiers warmed up to working in Hollywood and working with a lot of actresses. So there is a lot of interesting stuff to say, but at that point in time when they say costume design, it's not a pantomime costume design. It's beautifully made dresses and bar jackets and skirts. That is what they refer to as costume design. So it's really annoying when people say, yeah, I wanted to design costume and things look very pantomime-y, because none of the couturiers of that time would make costume design that looked odd. It just looked like the kind of stuff they would normally make just in a film. But it's just called costume design because I guess it is. So yeah, that's a big mistake when people are thinking of costume out of that context.
Yeah, there's a difference I think between like costume design and like objects being designer, having a vision, being part of the language of the house, and being appropriated for a character for reasons of dramaturgy. This person has a Goyard bag because they're the type of person who would wear this kind of Goyard bag, etc.,
Right.
etc. That's what makes luxury work within the space of costume. But luxury and costume are diametrically opposed because one is doing a job, right? It's like being an industrial tool for this kind of storytelling in this medium, and the other has to be something for the client, right? Like it's a totally different job here. And I think it's a bit of fluff, honestly, with its costume design sort of thing. But it still, I think, doesn't have like a clear idea of what the story is that they're trying to tell.
Right. Because even someone in the comments was asking, where is the Marlene Dietrich? Which, of course, was a big reference point in this collection that they've stated. It's literally in the show notes. This idea, this whole, like, bows everywhere, I get it. This version is kind of like petals that looks like a, what's that Dior piece? Let me show you guys from that collection I really don't like. It's the, let me find it. It reminds me of this here. This thing here. So he's kind of finding different ways. So this one was in bows, which makes sense because Christian Dior loves Rococo. Christian Dior had a lot of bows on his dresses. So he made a bar jacket full of bows. I get it. Here, it kind of has the same visual effect, but it's something different. These are like petals that look the same, but I don't know how I feel about these kind of, this. It's just not flattering enough. Basically, what I'm getting at is, I just think if Yves Saint Laurent designed a dress with this idea, it would look a billion times more flattering on the model. So why can't J.W. Anderson just do that? That's my issue.
I love that. I love that pull quote. Why can't he just make it better?
But it's true though. Like, it just doesn't look flattering. And someone's going to wear this on the red carpet, and then they're going to get lambasted online because it's like it doesn't look flattering.
Bro, has he had one good red carpet moment?
No, I don't think so.
There have been no successful Dior carpet moments.
There have been notable bad ones. Very notable bad ones. I see the vision in that cornflower colored dress, but it's just too much. But yeah, I'm rooting for J.W. Anderson. J.W. Anderson's my go. And I still think that it just depends on the collection, because the last collection I thought was really good. This collection, but it is a resort collection, so I'll give him a pass. The next collection, I'm probably expecting it to be good again. I also think the menswear collections have been quite decent. They've been really consistent. The only menswear collection I didn't like is that preppy track jacket. I bought my dad's, I used my dad's credit card to buy cotton shorts collection. But outside of that, the debut collection was cool because of all the references, like menswear from the 18th century. The latest menswear collection, I believe, is the one with the Paul Poiret references. I think that was cool. There were like elements in that collection that I think are really interesting. I wonder how that sells though, how the menswear is selling. Because men just don't really buy clothing that looks like that. Men are fussy.
I think that's why the jeans and the roadies are doing pretty well.
Yeah.
You know, it's a staple of the brand, sure, but like I think people go to Dior for something that's like a dumb reach, right? It's a dumb reach. And it shouldn't require any explaining or context.
Because even stuff like this, the jacket, amazing, but it's too cropped. And men, going back to, men being fussy, men are not going to wear
something. 8% of Dior's customer base is in Japan. Maybe it works for them.
Maybe. Because I would wear something like that. But in mass, are people going to wear a jacket with that silhouette? I don't know.
Asia's a customer base. They are okay with stuff like that. Less okay with stuff like this. Like
I think it
the
depends.
calm shit
It
from this
depends
show was
where
just
in Asia though.
nonsense.
Yeah, agreed. I think it depends where in Asia though, because like some of my friends, like one of my really good friends, she lives in Shanghai, and she says there's this conception that in Asia, like people are just like so like you can wear whatever you want, and it's widely accepted. And my friend, she wears comme des garçons, and she's like, people look at me like I'm crazy all the time. So outside of certain parts of Japan, if even if you go to more rural areas of Japan, it's not the case that you like wear all these crazy silhouettes and like people aren't looking at you like you've lost the plot. So you do still have to think how many places is it adequate to wear things like that. It looks so bad on Harry Styles. That is true, actually. I forgot about that. Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Even if Lakeith Stanfield makes your shit look awful, your shit is just bad.
Yeah, it did look terrible. It did. 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 The silhouette just looks so off-putting. Yeah, I don't. Harry is a try. No, I just think. So the thing about Harry Styles is that a lot of times clothing wears him. He doesn't wear the clothing. I can't remember the last time I saw Harry Styles wear clothes. Every time I see him, the clothing is wearing him. Every single time. I don't even know what his style is because, like I said, it just every time he wears clothes, it just looks like the clothing is wearing him. I have to feel when I look at an outfit, I have to feel like on a random Tuesday going to Asda, you would pick that out of your closet and wear it and leave your house. And nothing that Harry Styles wears gives me that feeling. Exactly this. Like, I don't even know what Harry Styles' style is, actually. So he wears whatever his team hands him. Exactly that. Honey, I put the bar jacket in the dryer. And it shrunk. Harry equals K-pop flower boy. Damn. Harsh crowd, harsh crowd. At most, Harry Styles may be a T and flirting. Yeah, I genuinely don't even know what his style is at this point. But either way, some of the mental stuff is really cool though. I like the footwear. Like I said, it's selling really well. This sort of D-shape footwear. Even this thing that Dior and I said Chanel. I want to say Chanel and Celine at the same time. That Dior and Celine are doing with these medallions, I think is going to catch on with time. To be fair, I think it's definitely going to catch on.
There's definitely products in every show. Like I remember the earring from Cruise. I remember the tulip heels, mostly through just sheer dumb repetition. But I remember them. There's still products there. It just I don't know. It's not doing anything for the brand that show.
Yeah. Agreed. Because I think even Al, you're muted.
I like also in the latest show that they've eased off completely from the military inspired shit. That's all gone.
Because yeah, the epaulets were everywhere, right? I
Yes,
don't even mind. I don't even mind this. To be fair, like
it
I
wasn't
don't.
even military specifically. I think it was just sideways from the fact that they were speaking about history and like the influence of like pre-revolutionary France and like the sort of nobility and the idea of the new aristocracy. And the sort of cues they took from their military uniform that made its way into aristocratic, tripping over my words, the dress of like the
Yeah.
aristocracy, right? Like the maybe some influences from cavalrymen, horses, even the way they lace their shoes. It's all influenced by like military stuff. The wearing of ties, cravats, that's all
Yeah.
military.
Yeah.
So it was not really military, but it was sideways from that. It was more speaking about the aristocracy. But again, we live in difficult times. They had to cut all of that out of the collection.
Like they had to get rid of that.
Yeah. Hilariously, you're in LA in a time where like everybody's terrified of the wave of technology coming from Silicon Valley. You're in the most expensive art gallery ever made. And let's ignore all that. Let's not be political. In fact, let's ignore everything that's even vaguely LA outside of ripped jeans. Bro, where were the Vans? There's so many layups.
The fact you keep asking about the Vans is cracking me up so much.
I could be writing fan fiction about what this could have been, right? Like, for instance, the newspaper print, like, clutch that they were doing. What if they went into, like, this sort of LA tabloid style thing where, like, it's all about tabloid culture and, like, the TMZ and stuff. They didn't do any of that. They didn't do any really sort of old school Hollywood culture stuff. It was nothing.
Yeah, maybe J.W. Anderson tapped into the crowd of, young kids wearing a lot of military-inspired jackets. Maybe. His Eddie Saint Laurent era way back with his long hair was working. Demna LA was more LA than JW.
Oh, yeah. The Irwan shit?
That was the most LA thing.
It was maddening. They had their own shake. They had their own shake at Irwan. It was pitch black. It was like a squid ink shake. It was disgusting. I love that stuff.
Did you try it?
No, I mean, like, obviously it was disgusting.
Oh, okay.
Like, right? But,
oh my god.
No, it was like sea algae. There was all this, like, weird, superfood stuff. And then, like, I think some food coloring or squid ink or something to make it.
Oh my god. I really want to erase that collection from my memory.
That's where we got the 10XLs.
You had Cardi B stumbling. There was a collaboration with the sportswear brand that was all those athleisure looks. I think it was Under Armour.
No, Under Armour was Shanghai. That was a different show.
So maybe it was Oakley. Let me just check.
But like it embraced the idea of like all the American like obsession with athleisure, sort of actual thing the well-to-do were wearing in LA, the obnoxious shallowness of the culture. It wasn't like directly political, but it talked about the environment. Like, why do you do cruise? Why fly people out to a different city? And so that you have opportunity to discuss the culture and reflect the culture.
Yeah.
And to not really go into that is just cowardice, in my opinion. Or maybe, my culture is not your costume, and people get mad if somebody's too on the nose.
I think so. The thing about collections that like this, though, with Demna, is that the critique is valid, but then past the critique, the context is still, this is a multi-billion-dollar luxury brand. And so there's still an expectation of a certain level of, let's say, craft and design and creativity that has to go into the designs themselves. And this is such a on the nose literal critique that there is no creativity that went in the designs, because it is just like athleisure after athleisure after athleisure after athleisure look, for most of it basically, until like you get to the end and you get those like really nice dresses and stuff.
Also, get demi couture out of here. We don't need that shit in our ready to wear. Don't put a $20,000 dress in a ready to wear show and be like, "See, wasn't that a great finale?" You're cooking the book.
But Demna does that every single. That's literally his MO. He does that He used to do that every single Balenciaga show without fail, like every single one.
I mean, there's some like argument to like it's Balenciaga, you have to like reference those couture looks, but I mean, like Dior does it, like J.W. Anderson does that shit.
Yeah.
You think you could only spend 6 racks? You think all those dresses in the couture show you can get for 6 racks? No, there's some 5 figures there.
Like just like that Chanel Paris Texas show with the Native American styling. Yeah, I know this is the thing. So this is my thing about, because people don't understand that I'm a fan of Demna, but I just think you can critique it though, because ultimately this is another context. When they make those athleisure pieces, it's way cheaper to produce and the brand makes way more money because their ready to wear is just priced at their ready to wear prices. So it has to be in line with everything else, otherwise they cannibalize themselves price wise.
That's why I think there was like this huge pivoting to like all like the tassels and the over application of like these bluebell flowers or what have you. Like it's a sort of like response to like the idea of, oh, you're just charging humongous margins on simple items, right?
Right.
Luxury is all about, you know, putting a logo on an Under Armour t-shirt and selling it for 10x. And this is sort of a swing back of the pendulum against that, but it's getting kind of old because everybody's doing it now. I think we've peaked with Bjork DJing and Bottega. Like we've peaked. further to go, where it becomes more cool. It can only get more lame.
Yeah. But I do think though that I do like that people focusing on the craft, because I think there should be a certain expectation when you spend a certain amount of money. For example, Pharrell at Louis Vuitton, he put in quite a lot of work into how things are made. Probably because on the design front, I mean, he's no John Galliano, and I think he understands that. So you know that when you buy a ready-to-wear LV menswear piece from Pharrell, you know it's going to be really well made. I think that's a good thing.
Yes, there's some of that. And some of that is also just rebuying the cachet that you lost, right?
Right.
Like, you have to do this for a while, eat your vegetables before you get to, you know, I don't know. It just feels like a pendulum. Like, it doesn't feel ingenuous because it's so exaggerated, right?
Someone said the coffee cups are genius. Yeah, it's very Erwan. Get coffee in the morning. Erewhon must be such an interesting place. I want to go to LA and just go into Erewhon, or just go into like the parking lot for one day and just people watch all day. Like I have my laptop and I'll be working and just people watch. I watched the show live and I did not like what I saw. Damn. In his defense, it's a cruise collection. That's the
There's no
that's
defense.
The defense I
That's
use.
not a defense.
In his defense, it's a cruise collection, so we can leave it there.
Who does my favorite cruise collections? Fucking what's his face over at Louis Vuitton? Gasquet.
Nicholas Gasquet, yeah.
His cruise collections are good. There's not really an excuse. It is just more clothes.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna bother to have a show instead of having a lookbook, bring your A game.
I mean, I think Mathieu Blasi has had good cruise collection so far.
I mean, he's obviously won the entire season. Like that was a knockout show in my opinion. I really liked that. because it was like the Bottega-isms finally felt integrated into the core of like what the house was doing. Because like I think before it was just like quirks, you could totally tell that's just very similar things he was doing, but like just the way that he like brought in like the legacy of craft that Chanel has, I thought was really interesting, and how much that like he's referencing the very beginnings of the house, and specifically the sort of brand philosophy of Coco Chanel is, I think, really great. And like I didn't even mind like Logomania because it was
It just
done in
looks nice though. It's just done in a way where everything just looks nice and cohesive. I
like
still need to look into
it's
those
total
feet.
Bottega-ism.
I
But
need
like
to
it
look into
fits so well.
these soulless shoes. I didn't actually look into them properly. Like what is the whole deal about this?
I think it's just an extension of like what he's kind of doing with like the sort of luxury of exposure, like what he's
Right.
doing, extremely sheer pieces for the couture. Just the luxury of being so like secure and safe and in control of your environment that like you're not going to step on any broken glass. You're not going to be exposed to any of the elements. You're totally in control
Right.
of your own world and how others perceive you. That's a degree of power, I think, that is
That you
not being
can
offered by other brands right now.
your toes can essentially be at one with the floor.
That and the fact that it's responding to the climate situation where everything's 2 degrees hotter every year. Um,
Yeah.
you can actually get out on the beach and have a good time,
I mean, that would be the most appropriate place to wear them, right? At the beach.
or on a yacht.
A yacht is a good point. If I had the money, I'd buy those heel only shoes. Instant collector's item. Fair enough. I love those shoes. They look like chariots for your feet. So unnecessary. Chariots for your feet is fascinating.
There's a sort of like quirky luxury, that I think is very refreshing for the house. Like I was arguing with Ryan Fenn, like when he was first announced for the position. I was like, "There's no way he can turn the ship around because Chanel is so out of touch with design and like the sort of ongoing conversation with the rest of high fashion that like it feels like it's just own its own league. It's got its like clients that they'll never want to upset, and they'll never do anything that's actually interesting. And lo and behold, Blasi pissed off all the old clients, but it's actually exciting again. The clothes are good. It feels
But
relevant.
do you know what's funny about the older clients? That was really funny because everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is so good, this is so good." Then there were these older clients that were coming out and saying, "I've been buying Chanel for 40 years. This might be the end." And it's like they don't understand that you're literally on the way out. So financially, the brand has to find a way to usher in new customers, or they'll cease to exist. They're actually not too like focused on you anymore. They want a new customer base that can grow with the brand, because that's why their whole plan is to have Mathieu Blasi there for a long time. They even said when they hired him that they don't like short-term designers. They like designers that are going to be there for 10 years plus.
Yeah, they're gonna have to like sink in like 12 collections before like the old customers will come around to it, which they will, because where else are they
They
gonna
will. They will.
where are they gonna spend their money?
They will.
The tweed designs are good. If you want the old stuff, you can get the old stuff in the new fabrics. It's still there. They're gonna spend the money.
Like,
These
it's all they wear anyway are tweed suits. It's not like when they're like this collection. It's like you only used to buy 2 looks out of each collection. Relax. To be fair, if I was a woman and I had loads of money, I'd just be wearing Mathieu Blasi Chanel. Like, just that would be me right there.
They're trying to get ASAP Rocky to get the guys to like rock them.
Nah, I'm not wearing what ASAP is. Nah. They need to come with something else.
Pedro Pascal for if you're 10 years older.
I can wear a Chanel tweed jacket. I'd wear the hell out of that. But yeah, some of the ASAP stuff is not for me personally.
Um, Creative director of Ray-Ban's A$AP Rocky. Ugh. No,
Right, because
I hate the new bags. The bags are like Coach knockoffs.
oh, you mean the slim ones, the ones that are slim and I've forgotten what they're
No,
called.
like they like actively, I think, try to attack the sort of imagery and like sort of hoity-toityness of like a Chanel handbag while keeping it at the same price point with like new bag designs, which are simplified to the point of being acceptable within like I think professional context.
Right.
All these like large carrying capacity shopper bags and so on and so forth, super simplified, designs where it's all about the quality of the leather more so than it is about like house codes like quilting or gold or whatever, what have you. Um, it's that I think is the direction that's like attempting to like distress the image of the bag in a way that makes it more accessible to younger people. I noticed that like this is something that Demna did with like the Jackie, where like he offered like a scratched up version. There's now
Yep.
fucked up Chanel bags you can buy, and that's like part of the core design language of like I think his bag offering. It's a bag that's not precious. It dares you to use it every day for like grocery runs.
Yeah.
Um,
I will say some of the stuff has grown on me. There were certain silhouettes from him, like bag silhouettes, that I was like, what is, especially like I'm trying to find the exact bag I'm talking about. I can't remember what it's called. Where is Mary's room when you need her?
yeah.
Was it the shopping bag? It's the one that basically looks like it has a long strap and then the bottom is like a cylinder. And it's really popular. Like it's one of the new silhouettes and a lot of women are wearing it. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like at first I was like, what the hell? But over time, like stuff with this kind of shape, but even like the bottom is a lot longer. And it took me a while for me to like get used to it visually.
But you see what I mean by like Coach inspired, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's not even like streamlined with the silhouettes, but like they almost feel like they are engineered to feel more accessible. Yeah, I don't know.
Until you see the price.
Like compare and contrast that maxi flatback with like another really popular hero item right now, the Chanel 25, which is the hammock design that's like slightly down on. Like compare that to the maxi, right? Like there's so much more going on with the
with the 25, yeah, definitely.
The design language is completely different, and we're all trending towards this maxi.
It's even more. The 25 is also significantly more difficult to make, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So, like going back to what we said a while back, that's another consideration I think people need to talk about more. The fact that brands iterate things sometimes also so for simplicity and so that they can save money on the back end by convincing you to buy simpler designs. It's a psyop.
I mean, it can be, but like I think more than just like it being able to make cheaper. Apparently, there's been humongous issues with quality control at Chanel, like in the last couple of years. Like there's been many reports on like, oh, the quilting is bad and like the leather coating is like flaking off within the first
I've seen that
stuff like that. So maybe it's just straight up like we need to be able to make bags that like look good, beat the hell up. That's a design and engineering challenge that we now have to meet to combat like the quality issues. So how do we design a bag that looks bad beaten up? Well, we can make it simpler in like these ways while focusing on these different ways to communicate luxury.
Yeah.
So it may just be like, I wish
10K for the lived-in bag is insane work.
These are with the
Insane.
here, so you can position.
Yeah, you can position how it looks, like how the beaten up thing looks. But that aluminium inside is not that expensive to add though. Like there's very cheap bags that have that.
Yeah, I think I've seen Instagram, advertisements from leather hide, distributors who have this available. You can just go get this. It's not something exclusive to the house. But like the core thing, like why I brought this up is to compare and contrast this with like the recent Dior thing, which is just there's so much of a clearer vision here of who their customer is, what the offering and their perspective is going to be for them, that just doesn't exist for the cruise show, which isn't even. Let's just do the Loewe thing, the Loewe pop surrealism, sort of thing that they had there. It doesn't translate. Not with that set. Not with, the maximalism of like the clothes. It just doesn't work.
And that's the thing, right? Because when you think of J.W. Anderson's Loewe, there's like things that you can think about. It's like, okay, the Loewe customer probably likes art. They might like surrealism to a certain extent. They have a playful energy about them. Even the ambassadors they were using, it kind of, or people that were seen wearing the clothing or associated with it, kind of represented that. Like Ayora Debris has this sort of playful, childlike energy to her. So everything just made sense cohesively. And at Dior, it's so difficult to understand what it is, down to like who's wearing it. No one is embodying the clothing. You look at when it's worn on a red carpet, disaster. So it's hard to build a language holistically.
And I don't think it's impossible to do such at a large house. Like, look how quickly Demna swung Gucci. Like, you know what Gucci is. It's about the street. He's talking about the street again, right?
Yeah.
But
even
like,
Mathieu at Chanel, like even the ambassadors he's using, people like Bavida Mandava and like her story and kind of that represents what he's going for at Chanel. It's about community and that sort of stuff, right? That's what he's communicating through signing Bavida as an ambassador. So it's so unclear with J.W. Anderson's Dior. I want to listen to fucking Problems, but it's sad. Well, because you saw him wearing pink Chanel tweed. I explained this earlier in the stream.
Before there was a Dior Cadillac at DSM for the ERL collaboration, because ERL is a house brand at DSM, and maybe he's just doing this because he wants to be carried in DSM again.
I think if they want to be carried in DSM, they can carry it. To be fair,
no, Dior's not stuck. They're not stocking Dior, not at London at least.
Yeah. And also, let me no, I mean, like, because it's LVMH, if they wanted to get stock, they could, because they just have too much money. They could just like do some shit, and then before you know it, they're just in there.
Pharrell has a little booth at Ginza. They're on the first floor, so that they don't like not work together. I think it's mostly just the customer, right? Like the Dior customer, not the DSM customer, right?
It depends though, because everything is about curation, right? If you curate the Dior pieces that are more experimental and just only put those in DSM, then it's the similar customer base. It's like the kind of person that would wear Dior. And then, of course, this is another collection that J.W. Anderson was referencing with the Cadillac bags. Like, this was when he did the saddle bags, but like Cadillac inspired. quite famous. So he did bring those back. I'm sure those are going to sell.
But the show is America. It's actually about America. Look at the content. Look at the successful synthesis of influences and references.
I mean, the show is all about America, but it just doesn't. I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but I think everyone just knows what we mean at this point. It's just not anchored correctly.
Those sunglasses weren't even good. What are we doing? This is reheating nachos.
I don't think a true Dior girl would step inside DSM. I think the kind of person that wears John Galliano's Dior would step into DSM. So I think it depends what era of Dior we're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's quite possible that, a house could be made to be fitting the DSM customer. It's just not usually what they're interested in doing, right?
Yeah.
Although maybe with other department stores going, the way that they're going, shop with a strong point of view is really where you want to be.
Do you think that Demna's Gucci would sit well on DSM?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because Gucci is always stocked in DSM, even from Alessandro Michele days.
Yeah. I mean, Valentino is now stocked at DSM, at least in Ginza, because of his touch. But there's a street element to DSM that exists. The DSM basement crowd is real.
True.
And I think it would fit.
And those kids all like Demna. Basically. Yeah. That's a good point. That collection is so fascinating. Honestly, let me pull up that collection quickly. It's just so. I really want to know how well that collection is selling, because I know Demna is a master of understanding the temperature of the time, and if he's identified that, all the kids want to dress like bodybuilders, and they want to look like they're going to a club and look like Italian Maranza and sag their pants like fake mink and shit. I just want to know how that lands with people actually buying clothing.
Apparently the characters, the Familia collection is doing well. I didn't hear particularly great things about the follow-up Generation Gucci, like super Tom Ford inspired one in stores.
Yeah, people haven't really talked about that much anyway.
I don't think the Tom Ford stuff quite translates directly anymore, because that sort of ideal of sexiness is I don't think even millennials are buying into that anymore. It just is something that is a different kind of glamour. But the sort of street stuff, the commentary on looks maxing, the sort of all the models are fronting 110%.
Yeah.
Barely squeezed into their clothes. There's a personality there. There's a human frailty on display, right? I think when I was watching this collection live, it's who is this customer? This customer is somebody that you'd want to shove into a ocean cargo container and beat to death with a sledgehammer. These would be annoying people to be friends with or hang out with in real life. He'd be your friend from years back. You'd be like, why do I still hang out with this guy? But there's a love there. You could totally tell that this is people that seem funny to Demna. And there's
do you know what this person reminds me of? Working in fashion, when I'm at Fashion Week, there's always people that I guess the most important part of their life is being sample size. and their whole personality is being sample size. So like if they're trying clothing on in a showroom, it'd be like, oh, well, I'm sample size, so I should fit in like everywhere they go. Well, I'm sample size. And when I saw the selection, because when I was there, the first thing, when I saw these super tight fitting clothes, that's the first thought that came to my mind. Like people in fashion that you always see, like the archetype of, well, I'm sample size, I'm sample size, and they like say it all the time. It's so funny.
I'm I'm reminded of that one meme of like a guy who's like Gucci's backpack is like being tied together by like the straps that are like falling apart. I don't know if you know what
Yeah,
I'm talking
yeah.
where like just let it go, man. This is for the guys who don't let it go, the fashion victims.
No, because
The
there's some
tryhards.
fashion victims that they try too hard and they squeeze themselves into it's like, just let it go. Like, let it go.
But
Try
there
to
is
kill themselves.
this internal locus of confidence still, even to like bear with that. To like Celine Dion, I don't walk the shoes. The shoes don't walk me. I walk the shoes. You know,
Right.
there is that degree of human warmth, even with like the sort of like tongue in cheek, you know, lampooning of like the way these models walk and sort of interact with the world, and how Gucci is part of that story. Like I think it's just so clear, right? And it immediately, I think, tells you how to wear it and how it should feel.
And I
It
think
asks,
Demna, the thing about Demna also, he's just so good at product. Because I know the footwear is going to fly off the I already know. And like even the eyewear, I mean, I bought some of Demna's Gucci, like the aviators. And then I got some other sunglasses, which those are actually, I got two pairs of aviators. Like Gucci aviators, to be fair. So he got me. He got me. But it's the product that's like so good though. Because the runway stuff is one thing, but when you go into the stores, there is so much stuff. Like even the Tom Ford jackets with the horse bits. Like my Gucci sunglasses on the side, they have the horse bits, and every time I wear them, people always point it out. So I don't know. He makes very desirable product, which is what he did at Balenciaga, which is what made people actually buy it. So that's why I think with Demna, it just always kind of works.
yeah. And I think the only weak point is like any sort of like, I think, hanging on to like previous directors' work, like the Gucci thong with the GG. That was,
Yeah, that was Tom Ford. Yeah.
it was excessive, is what it was. I think if you just make it about Gucci, if you make it about the Gucci customer, like that's compelling. You don't really need all this other fluff.
I guess it's just a talking point, right? Having the G
distraction.
string to end it. It's like, yeah, it's like, who remembers that Tom Ford ad? Like with the G string, it's just a talking point. That's all. For everyone to feel like they're part of the conversation. Like, yeah, I remember when, like a reference that everyone like gets, understands. It's easy to understand very quickly. And then people feel like they're part of something. And Demna does that a lot, actually. He does that a lot. The low-hanging fruit reference. I like the way that he was using the Gucci Bloom stuff in the collection. That was really cool. Like using it to make a mini dress rather than these like elaborate dresses. And then some of it is it reminds me of his Balenciaga, like those sort of, like Eastern European floral prints on dresses, the kind of stuff that you're finding in an Eastern European flea market, turn into a dress. He's definitely brought that over from Balenciaga to Gucci. Any idea on how Tom Ford by Haute Couture is selling? I have no idea. I have no insight on that. There's probably people I can ask. So maybe the next time I'm on stream, I'll have some info. But definitely a fan of what Haute Couture is doing at Tom Ford. I think there have been so many appointments, I can't keep count. But the standout ones, definitely Mathieu Blasi at Chanel, Louis Trotter at Bottega, Haute Couture at Tom Ford.
Dries.
Yeah, Julian Klausner, Dries. Is there anyone else who's been on the level of those four? Mm, I mean, the Loewe, like Jack McCullough, Lazaro, they've been growing on me. JW Anderson, I don't think he's there yet. Demna, I don't really know yet because I don't really like. We've only seen technically one debut collection, as he calls it. Um,
The
even though we've
slide
seen
is still
three
happening.
collections.
Slide is still
Yeah,
happening. They dropped another 4% even after the new collection.
yeah.
And they actually believed in that collection, unlike with DeSarno, because like I think one of the things that really fucked over Sabato was like they didn't go all in. It
Did
was
you see
really
the article? I reacted to the article where they threw him under the bus.
oh no,
It was insane. It was like the executives at Kering threw him under the bus, and I was like, that makes you look bad because you hired him. So that means you make bad. It means you make bad hiring decisions. So I don't think it. They thought they were throwing him under the bus to kind of save themselves, but I looked at it as, but that was your decision, though.
and I think like he had at least a cohesive idea of what he wanted Gucci to be. It was just boring.
Agreed. Agreed.
Um,
I also don't think. I think overall, right, the marketing push wasn't because I work with Gucci in different amounts behind the scenes, and I remember speaking to the European side of the marketing team, and they were when Demna was hired, they were like, "It's gonna make our job so much easier." They were like, "We were struggling to market the Sabato collections because there were no narratives, there was nothing to talk about." So they're like, "We were hustling to do that."
gosh, Caring's in a bad place. Like, is the car guy still in charge? The ex Renault CEO?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently they're in trouble right now with the Italian unions because they just sprung like the shuttering of half all of McQueen on them, like no notice. They announced it to the
Yeah.
public, and so they're big mad.
In the
They,
Discord, we've been talking about the financial realities of McQueen. So obviously, we knew that was going to happen because
Mhm.
of how much the revenue has dropped since the McQueen sneakers stopped selling. Um,
I would say
it's
it's not
quite
the
in,
sneakers' fault. It's the fact that there was nothing from the new guy. That was it.
but I know, but plus the sneakers not selling is both at the same simultaneously, which is the worst thing ever. Like, there's nothing to replace what was your bestseller, and the bestseller is no longer selling as well. That's like recipe for disaster.
No.
But I don't know. His first collection, that first McQueen collection by him, I didn't necessarily like it, but I thought there were products that I genuinely thought people would buy. But clearly I was wrong.
I mean, the boots were like
That's what
a
I was thinking about, the
girl, but I
boots.
think within a week of them actually coming out, they were breaking. They were
Oh
just
god.
and
Oh
horribly gone.
god. No way.
Yeah, week they came out, people were like, "Nah, these are not it." It's like remember like
Cuz
when the Mischief Big Red Boot like first came out. Like the very first thing people saw most of the time was when people were
yeah,
struggling. It was
to
like that.
wear the
Like
boots, yeah.
yeah. The first thing people saw was them being shoddily made as soon as they came out.
That's a damn shame, to be honest, cuz I genuinely thought, as much as I didn't like I thought, okay, these boots are going to go. I genuinely thought that. Well, that's their fault. If they didn't construct them properly, they only have themselves to blame. Because once the narrative goes out that the quality is bad, then no one wants to buy it. That's a shame. But anyway, any closing thoughts before we take our leave?
For me, somebody in the chat was asking about Jill Sander. I like the old guys. I can't really say I'm 100% on board with the new.
What, Simone Bellotti?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not, and I like Simone Bellotti as a designer, but I just think that his Dior Sander is too in line with everything he's always done. So it's just, as someone that follows Simone Bellotti's work, I haven't seen him develop as a designer going to Dior Sander, at least not yet. So I like the aesthetic because I like Simone Bellotti's work, but I need to see him develop as a designer for sure.
Right, but like I think what I mean is that like the product offering is still subtle to the point where they're not going to escape Land Van Tier perma-sale hell.
True, true.
Yeah, it's
Because
not
I
that
think, yeah, Luke and Lucy Maya had, there was more of an intrigue to what they were making that made it a point of difference to a lot of that kind of cool luxury tailoring that mixes you in with, like you said, Lanvin, to some regard, Le Mer, and like all these other brands that are kind of within that same realm. Wait, are all the models now walking like Kendall Jenner? I don't know, but anyway, this was fun talking about the collection. Obviously, leave your thoughts post stream if you have any extra thoughts. Thank you so much, Al, for hopping on as always. We always appreciate your thoughts. Have fun in Vietnam. What time is it there?
It's about 9:30 p.m.
Okay, that's not too bad.
per
That's not
hour.
too bad. It's not too bad. Thought it would be like the middle of the night or something. But yeah, anyway, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. I'll see you guys